My video for September the 4th, 2019, video number 3197, is entitled "To Tell the Truth as If We Can Actually Know." Perhaps many, like me, thought they knew what truth is. It's not as easy to determine, especially when we tell the truth about ourselves. I've been deceived. Yes, my radio program was called Be Not Deceived. Nevertheless, I spent decades in my life failing to see some of the huge discrepancies in my belief system as inherited from my lineage. Of course, the Bible itself was filled with so many contradictions that I simply could not see. I was taught it was the will of God, or word of God rather, and should never be questioned. Anytime we are told not to question, a red flag should go up immediately. We'll never escape the box of lies if we remain unwilling to step outside those mental and, yes, emotional restraints. We are so easily enslaved, tricked even by those with good intentions who have also been misled. Perhaps the most honest statement anyone can make in most matters is, "I don't know." Couple that with a willingness to explore, and we have a chance of finally freeing ourselves from the tyranny of lies. It's sad but true. We live on a planet of deception. Yeah, I'm trying to get this recorded while it's nice out there. We have storm clouds all around the area where I live, but right here in Melbourne, Florida, and its immediate environs, there seems to be some cloudiness, but no precipitation. The storm continues to move north and a little bit west, but mostly north from the Virgin Islands, or for the Bahamas, rather, not the Virgin Islands, the Bahamas. And anyway, this whole hurricane thing has gotten my attention. And I realize, as I look at various news sources online, I haven't really watched any weather. I don't think I've watched hardly any weather things on TV. I do everything online. But in any case, the stories differ on what the reality is. I mean, again, some people are predicting, some of the weather things are predicting only gale force winds where I live, no hurricane at all. Others are still saying that there's a hurricane watch in Brevard County, where I live. I don't know what the truth is. And there are so many things in our political thing, especially, and our religious thing, all of our religions, they've all been compromised by those that have an agenda. And often it's an ego-driven agenda of, we're the only ones that are right. Everybody else is wrong. Now, it's so easy to fall into that because I think there's a natural propensity of human beings to believe that whatever I've been told is the truth actually is. We don't want to question, as little children, we don't want to question our parents. And sometimes even as adolescents, we find it more difficult, or find it difficult, not more difficult, but difficult to question our parents. Although sometimes people go through adolescent rebellion and question everything at that stage in their life. Well, perhaps mankind is in an adolescence of sorts now, because many of us are questioning. There are events that are happening around the world that just don't make sense, and there is so much polarization. I recently was at a discussion group where a former college professor is there, and he's actually, even though politics is not supposed to be part of that discussion, he made it clear that he's all in favor of that, what's her name, Warren, the Warren lady, from California, that's his candidate of choice in the next election. And obviously, since he's a college professor, he's been part of the establishment grid of misdirecting people that has been going on, not just in education, but in everything, our news media. But it all boils down, from my perspective again, to the monetary system, which in itself is fraud. I mean, at least when it was backed by a tangible commodity, there was some relative value in money. But of course, under Nixon, the US dollar became backed by nothing, yet it was the world's reserve currency. Now, how can you have a world reserve currency that's backed by nothing? It's just paper. It's the Federal Reserve and the whole monetary system put up by the elite establishment, many of which are fake Jews and atheists, and yet they chime anti-Semite, 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 and they're not even Semitic, many of them. Now, some of them are, but not most of them. Most people that claim to be Jewish today are Ashkenazis, which have no lineage to that part of the world. It's a different grouping of people. Anyway, folks, I am pleased that it does seem from some reports that the hurricane is diminishing. I, again, am most concerned about power outages. They have sent trucks here from all over the southeastern United States, as I've said, and they're planning on having major outages. I mean, I'm assuming that's why all these people are being brought in from other areas. In any case, we still have the hurricane moving up finally out of the Bahamas, and finally maybe going to be picking up speed. It looks like it's going to be moving much faster as it moves to the north and ultimately to the northeast. But we have to wait and see. I hope, and that's all I'm doing, is hoping that the prayers and the meditations and the visualizations that have been going on are actually producing the fruit of standing in the way of this hurricane, which I believe, again, I believe that there's a lot of manipulation of storms, and we have the ability, we've had the ability for decades to completely stop storms by seeding them with dry ice and other chemicals that cool everything down in the core, and then the storm just dissipates. We have that ability, but of course there's no profit in that, just like there's no profit in peace. There's only profit in war. And when money people run all the systems, you have the world that we live in, which is a world of confusion with very little truth. And even people that have an intention of telling the truth often simply don't have enough of the facts to be able to determine what the truth actually is. And so those of us like myself that are willing to think outside the box have to come to a point where we say, yes, I was deceived. I thought I knew, but I didn't. And I don't know what's going to happen in this matter. I don't know what's going to happen politically. I don't know how things are going to change, but I still pray, I still meditate, I still visualize positive things happening for humanity that would lift us up to a place where we could finally begin to listen and love one another. I know that sounds like a broken record to those of you that listen all the time, but I do thank you for listening and bearing with me as I struggle along with many others to reach a place where we can actually know the truth and find love and peace on earth. Thank you folks for listening, and namaste.